and welcome to the ASMR review show. This is it, the big one, the biggest, most epicest film list I've ever made. This is my top 100 favorite movies of all time, and it's gonna be a little inconsistent because, I came up with this list a while ago, and then I ignore the list for a while, and I come back to it, and then I change movies around here and there, and it keeps changing. And so I thought, just do it, just get it done, just have this happen. So this video is essentially a documentation of the now of how this list is ranked, but maybe I'll come back to it and I'll change it around a bit in time, but who knows, okay? And the other thing, please don't get too particular about number 89 versus number 90 or number 75 versus number 34. There's kind of a general order to this list of mine, but really the main thing is that the movies are actually on the list. So don't get too particular about 99 versus 98 or 75 versus 73, This really could be in any order for the most part. Really, it's only the top 10 that I feel is of a pretty definitive order. And then most of these will be kind of obvious choices, okay? I'm not going to try to hit you with super contrarian or hipster takes. A lot of these will be pretty obvious choices, okay? I never claim to be a unique, special snowflake of an individual. So don't groan too much when you see a lot of big classic movies in my top list. I've watched these movies and I kind of thought, most people that said some of these are the best of all time, yeah, I'm right there with you. There might be a few. We'll see. And also, what will not be on this list, no movies from this year that are new, and no movies from last year that are new, because they are too recent, I feel, for me to add them on. But 2022 is fair game, so there'll be some movies from that year on here. Also, no movies that I watched in the previous year and gave 5 stars. There are a couple movies that I watched for the first time and I really loved them, but I feel it's too recent for those to be on here, okay? I don't want to name any names because that will be talked about in my year review video. And I didn't really get around to doing any Halloween videos, I know, this year. I just was lazy. But I still have a Halloween beer left over. This is the Dark of the Moon Pumpkin Stout from Elysian Brewing. As you can see, I'm wearing my new King Gizzard shirt, Patchar Draconic Apocalypse, or Dawn of Eternal Night, and Annihilation of Planet Earth, and the Beginning of Merciless Damnation. Yeah, I saw them at the Gorge, and it was great, and I had to get Elysian beer when I was down in the States, because Elysian beer is great, but they don't make it in Canada. Oh well. Oh, good stuff. Last one. So, let's get into it. Let's enjoy the ride. And again, I don't even know what number 101 is, because I ordered the list and I took the honorable mentions off. So I might even change my mind midway through this list. We're just going with it. Okay? And the other thing is, it's tough because there's movies I love because they're legitimately great, and movies I love because they're nostalgic, fun movies. How do I compare those two? Right? So it's just kind of in some order. Anyway, I've ranted long enough. Let's get into it, shall we? Number 100 begins the list. It is Mission Impossible Fallout. Mission Impossible 6. It's my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies. I'm still waiting for them to announce the next one. I thought they would. But this one's legitimately a masterpiece. I love all the action bits to it. It's just fun. Never get tired of it. It's awesome. What else can I say? Number 99 is Before Sunset. Okay, this one actually crept up there a bit for me after I had been to Paris myself and visited some of these locations. And it's just a really great, well-written movie. The whole trilogy is really fantastic. There is a clear favorite for me of the three, but they're all great in their own way. They're just very well-written dialogue, and I never would have thought two people walking around Paris having a conversation could be so engaging. Number 98 is Arrival. It's one I've always really loved, really blew me away when it came out. It made me want to watch Denis Villeneuve do a lot more science fiction films. Thankfully he has done that, so that is good. And it's just a very interesting, unique take on a alien invasion genre. And it gets me in the feels all the time. Number 97 is Beauty and the Beast. Okay, it's one of my favorite animated movies. I've always loved it, and I just learned to love it even more every time. I never get tired of this one. The music is great, the animation is great. It's just everything I could want in a animated movie. I love it a lot. Number 96 is 500 Days of Summer. This is a very important movie for me. I think I watched it at really the right time when I needed to in my life. It kind of gets a little criticism for some people really hating on Tom, but then hating on Summer, but then hating on in these characters. And really, I think it's you have to realize that they're both not great people, and you're meant to kind of find your own way about it, and that's what I like. It's an important lesson. Some people, I think, take it a little too, that because this guy's the main guy, we need to be on his side, and that's not really true of movie protagonists. You're supposed to realize that. So yeah, it's very good. I mean, I don't think it counts as a quote-unquote chick flick, per se. If so, it's interesting that that's a main guy in it, but I mean, I don't think that really matters either way. A good movie's a good movie, regardless. So yeah, love that one a lot. 95 is Whiplash. As a musician myself, of course, I'm gonna love the movie about drums, and it's basically, drum school as instructed by the drill instructor from Full Metal Jacket. So it's a really intense movie. It was my first introduction to Damien Chazelle. Always down to see what he comes up with for films, and yeah, just really intense. And some can see it as an inspirational movie, but also a cautionary one, and that's what I like. You kind of are up to interpret that for yourself. Number 94 is The Batman. This is the highest Batman movie I have on the list. I don't have any of the Dark Knight movies on here, but I do love those ones as well. Ultimately, I just feel like, as of late, I'm really digging this one more for the style to it. They're both stylistically different in their own different ways, and I just really dig this one's style. Just the vibe, the mood, everything about it was great. It's a 3-hour movie that I never get bored by. And yeah, it's probably one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. So, what more can you say than that? Here's hoping they don't screw it up. I have not watched that Penguin show. Apparently it might be good. I mean, it looks like it's the same style. I probably should, seeing as how much I love this movie. Number 93 is Zodiac, David Fincher, the Zodiac movie. This was one that I didn't have as a 5-star movie until recently, because it's a very tricky movie. I mean, at this time when this movie came out, we had never caught the Zodiac killer or found out who he was, despite all evidence pointing to Ted Cruz, of course. And it's not an easy watch. Hey, do you want to watch a nearly 3-hour movie where they don't catch the bad guy and figure out who it is? But it's just really engaging and interesting. I think So many actors in this movie give career best performances. I love David Fincher's directing. The only thing I don't like about it is how so many people got the wrong influence from his style. And some of the scenes that happen are like more scary than any horror movie I've ever seen because they just feel so real. So yeah, it's a really good one. Really love that one a lot. Number 92 is High Fidelity, another movie from my formative years, of course, and it's a really fun one. Again, it's another one. I seem to have this thing for, rom-com movies with, kind of, questionable protagonists. What does that say about me? But I don't know. I really like it a lot. The whole making your own top 5 lists, of course, is something I've taken to heart. It does make me realize I would not be a good person to work in a record store because I would be like Jack Black and deny people who came in to buy the new Taylor Swift album. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. I like the musical references. I like the style. I'm just really into it. But again, you have to realize that just because our main character is the main character doesn't mean we're supposed to fully side with him. Like, yeah, he is kind of a pretentious snob and he realizes that about himself and hopefully learns for the better. Hopefully. Maybe. In any case, I like this movie. Still have not seen the remake show with, who is it? Zoe Kravitz in it, right? Because that's Lisa Bonnet's daughter. Is it? Right. Who was, Maria DeSalle in this one. I don't know. Might want to watch that show. 91 is 28 Days Later, probably my favorite zombie movie, I think, unless I put anything higher on the list. Just a really great apocalyptic movie. Obviously, having some songs in there from Godspeed You Black Emperor really helps. I just love the frantic style to it. It's basically all of the classic George Romero zombie movies rolled into one. And I just love the style to it. Here's hoping that 28 years later, or whatever one is next, is half decent. Number 90 is Gravity. I think this one's a bit of a controversial pick, because when Gravity came out, I loved it, and I still love it. But I know a lot of people don't really dig that it's very simplistic plot-wise, and, perhaps there are some scientific inaccuracies here and there. Mainly with that scene with George Clooney in the middle of the movie, if you know what I mean. But for me, it's a fun thrill ride. I love science fiction. You'll see a lot of science fiction movies on this list. It is my favorite genre. And it's just a crazy, insane thrill ride that I had a lot of fun with. And I still do. I don't really know what more to say. It seems like it kind of gets hate for that, I guess maybe because it is so simplistic in that regard. Or there's people that find it overrated. But no, I do really love this one a lot. So yeah, it's on my list. Number 89 is Dark City. So there are no Matrix movies on my list. I do love the Matrix movies a lot, but none of them are a perfect film for me. They're just really, really good. And I know it's not fair to compare Dark City. It just happens to be a stylistically similar movie that came out almost the same time. But I just feel I have to point it out there that Dark City did it first, and I think it did it better. Just such a great style to it, and I really love it. Just so many great shots in this movie, and such a fun, insane thrill ride. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with Dark City. Director's cut, of course. I think I put notes in here where I'm specifying that it's an extended or director's cut of a film. I forgot to do that for Dark City, but I mean, to me that should just be like the only version that exists, because the theatrical apparently spoils the movie, which I've never watched. So director's cut it is. Number 88 is The Lion King. Yeah, so again, you'll see some Disney movies on here, and because they're awesome, it's art. I actually watched The Lion King like almost literally the night before James Earl Jones passed away. I was so devastated by that. Would have been worse, I think, if it was a day later, though. So, yeah, it's a great movie. The soundtrack's amazing. I saw Hans Zimmer live, and they did the soundtrack, and I was in tears, and I was a mess, because why wouldn't I be, from that movie? Some of the greatest animation, and I rewatched this movie, and I'm still in love with every element of it. No notes for me there. Number 87 is Doctor Sleep, specifically the 3-hour director's cut, of course. Doctor Sleep is a movie I kind of regret skipping over when it came out, but I also don't, because then when I saw it, it was the director's cut I was able to watch. It's such a weird movie in that it has to be an adaptation of the book Doctor Sleep, which is a sequel to the book The Shining, but it also has to be a sequel to the movie The Shining, which of course famously Stephen King hates. But I really love what they did this one. It's such a well-made movie. Not really a horror movie per se, though. More of a thriller with some horrific elements to it. But I just love the characters. I love Ewan McGregor as grown-up Danny, and Rebecca Ferguson just kills it. I already really liked her from Mission Impossible, and this one just cemented how much I like her a lot. Is it better than the actual Shining? Well, we'll see if the Shining's on this list or not. That's a really tough one, I know, but they're both great for different reasons. I know it's usually heresy to say that a movie's legacy sequel is better than the original, but they can be both good in their own ways, and perhaps they do some things better. So yeah, I love this one so much. Very great. And it does the best thing that no other movie seems to do lately. That is, how do we have scenes with younger characters and stuff like that? What do we do? Well, you just hire people that look like the actors from back in the day. What? You mean you don't have to do CGI deepfakes or de-aging or anything like that? No, you just hire people that look kind of similar, and we as an audience will understand. Oh, of course. Silly me, why didn't I think of that? So Dr. Sleep gets points for that. Number 86 is The Hunchback of Notre Dame, another Disney movie. This is my personal favorite of the 90s animated ones, but not my favorite overall. We'll have a couple more later for that. But yeah, Hunchback of Notre Dame is quite a great movie indeed. The animation is so good. It's such an epic movie. And I don't care about the gargoyles being childish, or that the movie is kind of held back a bit from the darkness that it could have been. For me, this hits all of the notes that I needed to, both story-wise and musically. It's just such a departure from what you were used to, and Hellfire's one of my favorite Disney songs, and yeah, I just love everything about this so much. I do not intend to watch that live-action remake that's coming out, but I look forward to ignoring it. Could be fun. Number 85 is La La Land. So yes, I am in the La La Land over Moonlight camp. Sorry, I know. But I really love this movie a lot. It's got that frantic energy from Whiplash that Damien Chazelle had, kind of with his love for old school Hollywood musicals. That frantic editing we saw with Babylon, of course, which is not on this list, but it was pretty close to being. I do really love Babylon a lot. Yeah, it's a great soundtrack. Gets me in the feels. Of course, we'll be saying that about a lot of movies on this list. It's a good way to be a movie I like, give me an emotional connection to it. And I love Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, so of course they're great in this, and yeah, what can I say? I really love it a lot. Some people don't really dig it, they're not into this style of movie, and that's okay, but in this case, I am, and I like it. Number 84 is Blue Velvet. David Lynch with a really weird, whodunit murder mystery type movie, and it's hard for me to explain why I love this one, because it just sort of is. There's certain movies where there's a couple on this list. I just, something about it, the style, the look to it is just really engaging. And Blue Velvet's a movie where multiple times I've like sat down to watch a part of it, and I've ended up having to watch the whole thing. Definitely was one of the first weird movies I watched, when kind of getting into like David Lynch and that style. And yeah, it's just always been a fascinating one for me in that regard. Really, I would say it's not my favorite David Lynch movie. There'll be more, but I would say it's one of his best in that it's the perfect blend of like a normal plot with enough weirdness to be strange. It's really the perfect balance of all things Lynchian. Number 83 is WALL-E. WALL-E is my favorite Pixar movie because it's a science fiction movie with references to a certain other movie that we will see near the top of this list. If you know me, you know what that one is. There's if you ever watched that video I made a couple years ago on my top 5 films and having them on Blu-ray, well, that hasn't changed, because that hasn't changed in 20 years. But so you're in the know. But WALL-E is a good movie because it's science fiction, and it's cute because our main guy is like a nerdy guy who's got hyperfixations on collecting stuff, and he's trying to win over the, very strong stoic woman. This is the story of my life. This is just the stories that get me. There's probably a lot of those movies on this list here. What can I say? I find it relatable. So, yeah, WALL-E is a good movie, and it's awesome, and I love it. And no, I don't find that it gets bad when they go to the spaceship. I think it just gets really good in its own way, So yeah, I have a lot of fun with WALL-E. Great movie. Number 82 is Pulp Fiction. Very, very boring answer, I know. But what can I say? It was a very fun movie the first time I watched it, and I still really love it, and I never get tired of it, and I quote it all the time. And perhaps is it a bit too overstated and over talked about, maybe, but that doesn't stop me from loving it. Again, some of these will be very obvious, like film bro, I'm so deep picks, but like I agree with them. What more can I say? So you won't find me giving you some hot takes about how such and such film that's classic is actually bad. Though Godfather is not on here, and neither is Godfather. Is Godfather Part 2 on here? I can't remember. It might be. I might have just missed out. I prefer Godfather Part 2 to Godfather Part 1. That's not unpopular, is it? There's some people that prefer it. I honestly don't remember all the movies that are on my own list. We'll find out together. We're in it. We're in the ride. Pulp Fiction is great, though. Royale cheese. Number 81 is Silence. Okay, here's an edgy take, right? Martin Scorsese movie about Jesuit priests trying to find their mentor in Japan. And it's just a really engaging story, I find. It's a 3-hour movie that I'm never bored in. So I am not like a religious person when it comes to a lot of the main types of religions like Christianity or anything like that. But I do find movies like that can be very interesting and fascinating if they are done in a very engaging way. And Silence is, because the first half of the movie I'm thinking, well, I might not agree with the Christian faith, but like these guys just want to let some people do what they want, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a little personal belief. Then the second part of the movie, I was like, yeah, what are these guys doing? Think they're coming into another culture and spreading their religion? Absolutely, get that out of here. And then I got to the third half of the movie and was like, oh shoot, man, now I don't know what to think. I don't know. So that's why it's a good movie. It really makes you think about it and asks questions. It doesn't tell you how to think. It asks you to think for yourself. And that, I find, is the mark of a good movie that deals with religion. Another really great one that didn't make the cut was Prince of Egypt. That one almost made it, but Silence is a good one too. So this one really just blew me away when I watched it, and I've always loved it. but I don't think it really has had the staying power in Martin Scorsese's discography as much as some of his other films, and I do find that unfortunate. There's a contrarian take for you. You'll see Martin Scorsese's religious movies on my list, and you're not going to see Casino, Goodfellas, Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, or Mean Streets, or any of those. Those do not make the cut. Number 80 is The Martian. Again, love me my science fiction movies, and this one's just a fun thrill ride of a movie. You know, they're trying to rescue Matt Damon, Saving Private Ryan, but in space, and it's great. I love the style to it. Something about it felt very 90s, like a movie like Contact or Apollo 11, where it's just a whole bunch of people working together to like solve some kind of science math problem, and it's just really like level-headed, you know. I just really like this one a lot for that regard. And of course, when Ridley Scott does science fiction, you know it'll be at least a certain level of quality and it will look really great. And this one does. And so I love it a lot. And it's got an ABBA soundtrack. That's great too. Jessica Chastain also made me really wish that she would have been someone to play Commander Shepard in a Mass Effect adaptation. And, you know, what can I say more about that? I like this one a lot. Number 79, Atlantis, The Lost Empire. So I talked about, you know, some of those classic 90s Disney movies, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and Hunchback of Notre Dame. But my actual favorite Disney movies are a couple of ones from the 2000s. And if you know Atlantis is on my list, you can probably guess the other one. This one's just great. I mean, again, science fiction, action, adventure, a really cool animation style. I do not understand why this one bombed so hard or why it flopped with people. It's just so inventive and original, and I love the style a lot. And hey, the whole Atlantis looks like it's that city from the gatefold of the Close to the Edge album by Yes, so that's also points. So yeah, it's really good. I'm gonna try not to talk too much about every movie because we'll be here a while if we've got 100 to get through. Number 78 is The Shining, so there you go. Pretty close to Dr. Sleep, but I will put this one slightly over it for being a little more unique and strange. I mean, you know, if you've seen any of my videos, I have a poster of it right there on the wall, because it's, again, just such a good one. And it's another one, though, that's really hard for me to explain. I mean, some people like it because they like theorizing that, oh, it's actually about the Native American genocide, or it's actually about the Holocaust, or, you know, it's actually about this, or it's actually about how Kubrick faked the moon landing. None of those theories really interest me, you know. It's just a very strange, odd, unsettling movie. I don't know if I've ever found it particularly scary, but it's very intriguing. Again, kind of like Blue Velvet. It's just one of those ones you don't know why you love it. You just sort of know that you love it. Yeah, here's Johnny. Number 77 is The Last Temptation of Christ. This is my favorite Martin Scorsese movie. Very close to Silence in the list, as you can see. Something about when he does really hardcore religious movies, I just think it's a winning factor. And again, this is another one I can't really explain why I like it. It just is so interesting. You know, it's a very long, slow movie, but like, I love the soundtrack because they got Peter Gabriel, not Phil Collins, to do it. I think Willem Dafoe as Jesus is some of like the best casting and acting ever. And it's such a very in-your-face, controversial movie, but like, to make an important statement, you know, like, I feel like a movie where it was just Jesus being like, and then he was the Son of God, and he did what was asked because it was good, and so it was, and it was good, and it was awesome, is not nearly as powerful as this movie that says, hey, he had every opportunity to go have a life of, you know, getting to bang a bunch of hot women and have a family, but he chose not to because he realized it was not the right thing to do. I would say this is infinitely a more stronger message than the other one. So that's why I like it for. But yeah, I know that's not a popular opinion, but it's one of those things I don't have to think about. Just, what's your favorite Martin Scorsese movie? I think it's Last Temptation of Christ. What can I say? Number 76, while we're on religious movies, is Seven, right? David Fincher movie. Again, we already had Zodiac on the list. We're going to have Seven on the list because this one is also really great. Again, he was taking all of that great filming technique he had in Alien 3 and putting it to a script and a project he actually enjoyed working on. And it's great. It's got a horrifically depressing ending. Whoever it is that plays John Doe does a great job at being a weird, creepy guy, so that's good. And yeah, it was a big influence on Heavy Rain, which is one of my favorite video games. So again, it's another one that's just like, yeah, everyone says it's great. I agree. Number 75 is Jacob's Ladder. It's kind of one of those ones where I think if you watch it, you love it, but most people, you don't really know it. You either know it and love it or you don't. Obviously a big influence on Silent Hill. I played OG Silent Hill 2 and loved it. Was very impressed actually how well that one held up. So we'll see how that remake is. If I play it and if I make a video on it, I might. We'll see. That's to be decided. But Jacob's Ladder is a great movie, and I love its style. I really need to get into more of those late 80s, early 90s horror thrillers because some of them are just so out there and strange. Like Angel Heart, which is not on this list, but it could be a contender, is a really another good one, and so is this one. I really want to watch this one again, so I'll probably be watching it soon. It's a movie that sticks with you, in all the best ways. Number 74 is Dune Part 1. So, Dune Part 2 came out this year, and I loved it. I think I've watched it 4 times already this year, but I'm in the debate on whether or not I can count this as one movie, because they are 2 separate movies made at different times, but they are both one half of the same book. So maybe in future I will decide that Dune gets to be counted as one movie, and then it will rank a lot higher. But as it is, I am allowed to rank Dune Part 1 on here, and I love it. I love what they did with Dune. It was a great adaptation, and even where it did not be a perfect adaptation, they still made it a really interesting film. So yeah, I really like it a lot in that regard. It's just such a cool world. I love the style. It's everything I was hoping it would be. So maybe I'm hella biased, but is it wrong for me to admit that I am biased in this regard? And this movie was made for me, and everything about it is great? No, I don't think so. So Dune Part 1 goes here for now, and we'll see where it ends up in the future. But again, I won't be remaking this video, but you can just go on Letterboxd anytime and see if I've updated it. Number 73 is Princess Mononoke. Again, it's probably my favorite Miyazaki movie. I think Nausicaa was on the list here and just missed out. And of course I love Spirited Away, but that one also just missed out. And Castle in the Sky is great, but Princess Mononoke is my favorite one. Probably a very generic answer, I would say, but it's just got such a grand scope for the animation, and I love everything about it. What more can you say? Number 72 is last year's Best Picture. No, 2 years ago. Best Picture winner. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. No, I do not find this movie overrated. I watched it and I loved it. And then I watched it and I loved it. And I watched it and I loved it. If this one won a bunch of the Oscars, I'm A-okay with that. It's a very fun, inventive film that's just so entertaining. It's hilarious and sad, and it's got action. It's every genre rolled into one. So for me, no, this was not a overhyped movie. I'm still on the hype train for this one. Loved it a lot. Not my personal favorite movie of 2022, but yeah, it was a pretty darn good one, gotta say. Number 71 is Inglourious Bastards. This is currently my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. It went back and forth between Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill for a while. Kill Bill just missed out on the list, but ultimately I decided on Inglourious Bastards, which is a film I didn't really dig at first because it was different than what I thought it would be, but again, I love the style, I love the dialogue. I'm always so invested in it, and it's another movie I can just watch it like it's nothing. I just throw it on, and now I've got to watch the whole movie. I would say that is a key factor in determining that I like the movie. So, yeah, I don't know. This is your masterpiece, I would say. Number 70 is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yep, it's a crazy, zany comedy, and I love every second of it, and I always laugh, and I always quote it, and it's a classic for a reason, and, you know, what more do you need to say? African or European? Number 69 is Mad Max Fury Road. Again, some of these are pretty self-explanatory. Oh, everybody likes this movie, and Tars likes this movie too. Well, of course he does. Nice. Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, it's a badass action movie. Looks pretty good. It's pretty fun. Very well done. Furiosa was great too. Really sad that one did not perform well. Was it worth waiting 9 years for? Kinda, sorta, yeah. Yeah, this one's pretty good too. You know, what more can you say? Number 68, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first Indiana Jones movie. And yeah, again, one that I never get tired of. I think the truck chase sequence is one of the greatest action moments ever in a movie. And, you know, it's the tired old tradition of punching Nazis in the face, so that's great, you know, something we should still continue to do to this day, I would say. Yeah, man, what a great, fun movie. I do think it was weird that I was allowed growing up to watch Temple of Doom, but not this one. But whatever, I snuck the VHS one day and watched it secretly, and yeah, it's a pretty good one. Again, do you need me to elaborate on why I like some of these beloved classics? Like, I think they speak for themselves. Number 67, Trainspotting. Very important movie, again, in my formative years. I remember it kind of blew me away. I'd never really seen a movie like this before at that time, and it's such a quotable movie. It's weird for being such a dark movie about, like, drugs and addiction that it's still so fun and high energy, and I love it a lot. The sequel was also pretty good. I think that one deserves a rewatch, just to see how well it held up. But yeah, I don't really ever get sick of this one, and, you know, some of these, they're on here because I watched them so much and they're an important part of who I am. There were a couple movies like that that just missed out, like Wayne's World and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you know. And there's a couple movies on my list where it's like, are they perfect movies? No, but oh, I really love them a lot, and, you know, how do I balance those in? You'll see what I mean when we get to it. But Trainspotting's good. I chose life, alright. Number 66, Predator. Yeah, man, it's a badass action movie, and it's a sci-fi movie, and it's great. I remember hearing one about this all the time growing up, and I watched it, and I was a little scared by it because of how violent it was. But I really dug it a lot. You know, I kind of had this thing where I was really into Arnold Schwarzenegger movies for a while. You know, Predator, Terminator, Eraser, Total Recall, True Lies. You know, it was like Arnold, yeah, he's a Terminator, like the Predator, get to the chopper, yeah. So, yeah, but this one was a really great one, indeed. Yeah, so what more can you say, right? Number 65 is Tar. Oh man, what a great movie Tar is. This one just blew me away. I watched it really late one night, totally invested for a 2.5 hour movie. I just went and told everybody about it. Directed by, Todd Field, right? Nick Nightingale himself, right? I guess while he was hanging out with Stanley Kubrick, he picked up a few notes. Because this, yeah, it's a thing that gets said a lot, but this does feel like a very Stanley Kubrick style of movie. I really would have liked to have seen what he would have thought of this one. You know, it's a very strange type of a thriller movie, this one is. And that's good. And Cate Blanchett is so amazing. I'm kind of sad that it got kind of hardcore left out at the Oscars, but I mean, 2022 had a lot of pretty good contenders in it, so what more can you do? Oh well, I really love this one a lot. I think it's great. Never get tired of that one. Yeah, it was an instant classic for me. Number 64, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So as you can see, it is very close in proximity to Raiders of the Lost Ark, but ultimately I do prefer Last Crusade. Why? Because Junior, right? It's just, I don't know, I just like it more. What can I say? Though they are really close, though. That was tough. I didn't want to put them like back to back, so I tried to fit a few movies in between, but they still ended up pretty close by. So I know that Last Crusade is better than Raiders for me, but they're all great, both the two of them. So yeah. Number 63 is The Prestige. Again, another movie I just loved growing up. It's just got so many great fun twists to it. Such a unique movie. Fantasy, but also historical, but also thriller, but also sci-fi. Such a great killer cast. Everybody's hot in this movie, so that's also good. Eye candy never hurt anybody. Yeah, and one of my favorite twists in a film. Just love this one a lot. So Christopher Nolan, his big three for a lot of people are The Dark Knight, Inception, and Memento. None of those movies are on this list, but there are three of his films on my list. There are different big three. One of them you can probably figure out. It's kind of in the name. And the other one we'll get to soon. And then there is The Prestige. So I like what Christopher Nolan's been doing, of course, but I think it would be nice if he kind of went back to some of these, thrillers he used to do. Because I feel like Oppenheimer was a little, and Tenet were both a little too Nolan-y, that they kind of got in the way of the story, But I know I'm in the minority on that when it comes to Oppenheimer, and hey, it won Best Picture, so that's good. Number 62, Before Sunrise. I told you we had Before Sunset just squeaked into the list, and Before Sunrise is my favorite of the three because it is the first one, and so it works the most as its own film. And I just think both Ethan Hawke and Judi Delpy are, such a great acting couple, and they're both hot, and they're both amazing, and it looks gorgeous, the movie, and yeah, it's such a heartbreaking movie, and so good. I mean, I'm usually not one for those, talky drama type movies, because it's just a movie about feels and the relations between people and those close, quiet moments that connect us all. I'm not usually super into those because I find I watch them, they'd emotionally destroy me, and then I never watch them again. But this is a very good version of that, and it is really good indeed. Number 61, Titan AE. Again, we have to find a way to balance out my favorite animated movies as a kid on here, but I still love Titan AE so much. The style, the animation, the world, the characters, it's all just so cool, and I have a soft spot for that late 90s, early 2000s style, and the music and the soundtrack, was like they were trying to envision what the future music would be like, but it was still so 90s, but yet that makes it sound futuristic. I don't know, that industrial style is just really great. Also, Don Bluth, after, nearly a decade of putting Matt Damon looking characters into his movies, finally got Matt Damon in a movie. It broke new ground. So yeah, I say, like my sci-fi, like my animated movies, and this one's great. What can I say? Number 60 is Come and See. This is a weird movie for me because it sort of came out of nowhere. Like, there was some restoration of it coming out a couple of years ago, and so then I heard it was really good, and I went and watched it, and it destroyed me emotionally, and I loved it. And then it seemed like everyone was on this movie, and I was like, no one mentioned this movie before. Did everybody all of a sudden come around to it, or had it just like been conveniently like out of my field of vision the whole time? I don't know, but in any case, I found it and I loved it, and it's great. Super hella depressing, but it's so well done and well made. The best movie you never want to watch again, And again, this is what I mean. How do I compare Titanay to Come and See? They're two completely different movies, right? So they just kind of go on there in some order, right? This is why I said don't obsess about the order too much, okay? Number 59, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Again, it's classic for a reason, right? I love this one a lot. It's so great. Though I do also really love For a Few Dollars More. That one's also pretty good. Probably not underrated though, like everyone likes that one too. And I do also really like Once Upon a Time in the West, but that one I think is not as straightforward as this one. They may have gone far in a few two places in that one, but I like it a lot too. And I like this one, of course. It's Good, the Bad, and the Ugly again. Self-explanatory, right? Do I need to tell you why I liked it? Alright, fine. There are two kinds of people in this world. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig. I always thought that line originally ended in a question mark, like, you dig. Number 58, Titanic. Yeah, I don't think it's overrated. I don't hate it. I do love it, Every time I watch it, I love the filmmaking, I love the style, love the characters. I've been told I'm crazy for loving this movie this much, but, I do think it really is one of the biggest, most epic movies that there was ever made. And I don't get tired of it. And the best part is that you don't have to worry about that Celine Dion song because it's in the end credits. So just as soon as the credits start, pause the movie and stop it. There you go, you're good. And I do like the themes in the movie. It was such a great score from James Horner. If this was one of the movie to win all the Oscars, then I'm okay with that. I don't get tired of it. Number 58, Schindler's List. See, we're hitting up all of our classics here, right? It's Schindler's List, it's a great movie, it's so good. It was so good Stanley Kubrick abandoned his own Holocaust movie because he knew he couldn't do it better than this. Yeah, what more do I need to say, I'll tell you what, I don't like the idea that this is a movie that gave the Holocaust a happy ending. It didn't. It gave it a hopeful ending. Like, it was bleak and it was miserable, but it was the hope that perhaps we could achieve something better. Well, we're here in 2024. We haven't really achieved super much better with what's going on in the world, but we tried. We tried. Number 56, Barry Lyndon. Stanley Kubrick movie. Some people don't dig it, but I think it's been finding its audience over the years, and yeah, it's another one. It looks really good. Obviously, we've all known that, but I start watching it, and I'm just invested, and I love the transition from like the Irish countryside or whatever into the aristocracy and the castles and all that. It's 3 hours and I'm never bored. It is a long, slow movie, but I'm just into it. Again, this is how it is with Stanley Kubrick movies. I just love them so much. I can't explain why. I don't know, but it's really good. Number 55 is Annihilation. This, I felt, was an underrated one. It sort of came and went for a lot of people, but I was out there, screaming from the balconies, y'all need to see this movie. I was very grateful I lived in an area where this actually came into theaters and was not a just direct to Netflix release, so that's good. What can I say? It was like mind-bending sci-fi, a little bit of action to it, a little bit of horror, a little bit of thriller, a little bit of Lovecraftian, just a little bit of everything, really. A little bit of Stalker influence in there as well. Stalker is a movie that may have made my list, but I haven't watched it in a while, so I couldn't determine if this was a 5-star movie for me, so I'll watch that at some point, I think. But Annihilation's great, I just really love it a lot. Number 54 is Top Gun. Okay, Top Gun is like one of my all-time favorite movies growing up, and I recognize that it is not a perfect movie, and that it is not a masterpiece, and that it has a lot of flaws. But this is one movie where I just say, I don't care. I love it. I've always loved it. I still love it. I have a lot of fun with it, okay? And this is what I mean. How do I compare Top Gun to Schindler's List? Right? Am I saying Top Gun is better than Schindler's List? No. Am I saying I like Top Gun more? Well, it's a different kind of love. I love them for different reasons. This is why I'm not always the biggest fan of lists, right? This is why I said don't get too hung up on the placement. This was what I meant, is that I have Top Gun over Schindler's List. Like, can't we just agree they're both great movies in their own ways, So yeah, I mean, as a kid, I loved planes and aviation and fighter jets, and I had VHS tapes with like footage of all that, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and so I loved Top Gun, and I could quote this movie backwards, and as a kid I would say all the lines, even the lines that you shouldn't be saying as a kid. So yeah, I love it a lot, and I don't care. Number 54 is Das Boot, director's cut, of course. Just such a crazy, insane, intense movie about a U-boat crew in World War II. Such a great, well-done movie. It's so intense. It's like an hour where you're just in the boat and there's no hope and nothing. It's so claustrophobic. Really goes to show you how for some people they were just caught up in this war, not even knowing what they were doing, and I really like it for that, It's so good it almost makes you want to root for the Germans. Almost. But yeah, I just love that one a lot. Number 52 is The Revenant. Again, another one that I think some people aren't super big on anymore, but I just remember being blown away by this movie, and every time I watch it, it's just such a well shot, insanely well done movie, and I love Leonardo DiCaprio in it. Maybe he should have deserved that Oscar for Wolf of Wall Street, but hey, if they finally gave it to him for this, I'm okay with that. Yeah, for me, this is like one of the best movies in 2015. Maybe it wasn't my number one. It might have been. I can't recall now. I don't think Ex Machina is on my list. But that one's pretty good too. But yeah, what can I say? It was just such an insane experience. It's another one of those ones I can just throw it on and watch it like it's nothing, but I love watching it in the winter so I can like feel the cold along with the movie, like watching the 4D version of it, you know. And I think it's a revenge movie done right. This is, I think, how Last of Us Part 2 should have ended, perhaps, if you know what I mean. Number 51 is The Green Knight, another movie that just blew me away when I watched it. Just such a crazy, surreal story. It's hard to believe that this was the guy who directed Peter Pan and Wendy and the live-action Pete's Dragon. But that's David Lowery for you. I guess he alternates between doing one for him and one for them, right? In any case, it's a really great one. Very strange, very surreal, but I like it for that, you know. It's just, really was nothing like it. I like weird movies. This is a really good weird one, indeed. Can't really say much more than that, but it's a fun ride. Okay, intermission. Time for some Honey Lager now. And now it is number 50, which is The Northman. This was a movie that I thought I would love, and I watched it, and I did. I love everything that Robert Eggers does. The Witch is not on this list, but he may have another movie slightly further up this list. And I'm really hoping that Nosferatu, when that comes out, is indeed a masterpiece. It's Vikings, it's witchcraft, it's metal, it's violent, and everybody's hot in this movie. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one, alright. Number 49, Pink Floyd, The Wall. Not everyone was super into this movie, but I just love it. You know, it was like Pink Floyd was such a great band in my formative years. And then to have this visual representation of the album that I loved so much, to be able to see it, really experience it, it's just such a crazy, trippy movie, and I love it so much. Really great one indeed. Number 48, while we're on the topic of war movies, we got Paths of Glory. Again, another very important one for me, watching my formative years, and I love that this one gets the recognition it deserves. I feel like it was, how do I say it? It wasn't, it's not like it was underrated, but like, when people talked about the best Kubrick movies, it was always, you know, the usual top 5. And I don't think Paths of Glory was considered there, but I think this actually might be one of his highest rated ones on Letterboxd. Maybe because it's not as big, so it has fewer fans, so it's more likely to have a higher rating rather than some other movies of his that have been seen by more people, but they're not as acclaimed because there's more people to see them and negatively review them. But in either case, I love this movie. 1957 still holds up well. You know, Kirk Douglas is great in it. It's such a great movie, indeed. Number 47, Top Gun Maverick. Right? So again, I had Top Gun on the list because I love that one. And yeah, my favorite movie of 2022 was Top Gun Maverick. Because it's made for me, you know. I loved growing up with Top Gun, and this one was such a good, fun sequel to it. I love how well it was shot and how well it was filmed. And I just enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun. There's nothing else to it. It's not some crazy critique of war. It's not a trippy, weird movie. It's not about Vikings. It's not Schindler's List. But it's a lot of fun, and so, yeah, I do think it's a better movie than the first Top Gun, but, like, you know, I still love them both, right? But both is good. Yeah. Again, it's my list. I can do what I want. Number 46 is Dunkirk. This was the other of the big 3 Nolan movies for me. Again, some people didn't really dig this one too much, but I really did. One of my favorite soundtracks. It's such a insane, intense movie. I love it a lot. It's just so simple, you know, 3 stories kind of interwoven. this is one of the times where Nolan's whole thing to have movies take place non-linearly, I think actually really helped the movie a lot, because you needed to, so that you could have these three stories taking place at the same time. I felt it was really good in that way, not so much like in Oppenheimer, but yeah, again, it's, how many times can I tell you that a movie on a list of movies that I love is a movie I love because I love it, right? But another great war movie, of course, it seems like a lot of them clumped together, is of course Saving Private Ryan. Again, no hot takes there. I think this is my highest rated Spielberg movie, which seems like a pretty generic answer, I know, but like, Occam's razor, right? Sometimes it's the correct answer. What more can I say, Yeah, I don't get the critique that it's like the first 20 minutes are good, and then there's the rest of the movie, like the last hour is amazing, the whole movie's amazing. I don't think it loses steam, and for me it was a big movie because I was growing up playing Medal of Honor Frontline, which of course takes a lot of cues from this movie to see the movie, where it all came from. And I was kind of really into that whole World War II history at the time, and yeah, just really, really damn good movie. Yeah, so no, I don't think that one's overrated. I think it's properly rated. Number 44, The Abyss. Now, here's one I think is underrated, because I think it's just as good as James Cameron's other big sci-fi movies, but I don't think it gets nearly as much recognition, and it's a little awkward that, we didn't get a proper, even a Blu-ray release of it until recently, and then I think they screwed up the 4K version with, like, AI upscaling. I think I never bothered with it. I've got the DVD. That's good enough for me. But yeah, this one's really great, science fiction, underwater, kind of horror movie, kind of not. Did you know the last 20 minutes of the movie, the theatrical cut, syncs up with Echoes by Pink Floyd, just like 2001: A Space Odyssey? Pretty cool, huh? Yeah. So, yeah, it's a good one. I like it a lot. It's insanely well made. I've had a lot of fun with it. I didn't know what to expect, but I was totally hooked and not bored for 3 hours. That's good. Number 43, Eyes Wide Shut. Again, another Stanley Kubrick movie. It's almost like he's my favorite director. And again, another one where I can't really explain why I love it. I just do. It's such a strange movie. I don't really like to buy into too many of the crazy, over-the-top theories. Like, I spent 5 minutes on the Stanley Kubrick Reddit before realizing it was too much for me, personally. It's a little much. But it's such a strange movie. But again, there's something about it I just can't help but be captivated by it, even though there's not really too much that goes on. I like how Ghost used to open their concerts with the song from the Ritual. What does it mean? Does it mean anything? Is there something we don't know? I don't know, but in any case, I'm enamored by it, and I really love it a lot. Number 42, American Psycho. Okay, here we go now. A real film bro movie. Yes, I know, but again, I didn't know that when I watched it, and when I fell in love with it, to me it was just a movie. And there are a couple movies on here we've seen and we shall see where I don't really like the typical fan base of a movie, but I'm part of that fan base, so I don't know. In any case, I don't like the Patrick Bateman Sigma male concept. I hate the memes about it, but this is such a goddamn quotable movie. And yes, indeed, I do like Huey Lewis and the News. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. I think what's his name? Luca Guadagnino, the guy who did the Suspiria remake, isn't he doing a American Psycho re-adaptation? Is that the one I'm thinking of? I'm interested. I liked Suspiria, both the original and the remake. Neither of them made the list, but they're both really great movies. Number 41, Under the Skin. Another movie that I was just really hyped for and was blown away. It's a very easy movie for me to like. It's Scarlett Johansson seducing a bunch of guys and turns out to be a weird alien. So, that's like, she got me, then she got me tripping, right? But underneath that, very, generic, sexy kind of setup, like Species, but, hornier, is a very interesting movie about an alien's observation on what it means to be human. And it does get very kind of tragic in the later half of it. So, yeah, there is more to it than just that. It's just, again, eye candy never hurts, And I'm not just about the eye candy, because if I was, then Lucy would be on this list, and so would Underworld, okay? I like the Underworld movies, but they're not masterpieces, Yeah, so Under the Skin's great. I love it. Definitely a weird movie for some, but I really dig it. Number 40, The Thing, while we're on the topic of, body snatching imposter aliens, right? We have The Thing. John Carpenter's remake. It's only one of the best remakes of all time. There's a certain film franchise that you haven't seen any movies of on here yet, but you will, and you know what it is if you know me. So The Thing and Predator are not as loved as those ones, but they do get quite a lot of love from me, shall we say. Such a weird, strange, violent, a pessimistic movie, and amazing effects and character design and so much paranoia, and it's a movie that still has us guessing today who really is The Thing. Yeah, I love it. Never got tired of it. Another great movie to watch in the dead of winter. Number 39, The Iron Giant. Okay, again, movie I watched as a kid, but I've loved and I've still loved, and it's good to see that this movie gets love too, because there's some movies from my childhood that were on this list, like Atlantis and Titan AE, where they have their fans, but for the most part the consensus is kind of average. But it seems to me that we've all agreed that Iron Giant is the masterpiece that it deserves. I mean, it was so good they did a sort of half remake of it with The Wild Robot, right? That was a good movie. That's a good one, Been some pretty good movies this year. Lots to see still, though. We'll see. Yeah, so Iron Giant's a good one. Makes you cry. So well animated. I really love it a lot. It was the coolest movie ever as a kid. And, yeah, still holds up. Absolutely. Number 38, Return of the Jedi. Star Wars is finally here. So, I realize this with my ranking now. I have Return of the Jedi here. I think I may have screwed up. I think I might have, now that I think about it, because, spoiler alert, you're gonna see A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back further up the list, right? But I think I should have put Return of the Jedi ahead of A New Hope. That is the one thing. Empire's my favorite, and then I think it's Return of the Jedi, and then it's A New Hope. So I think I done goofed here, perhaps, but whatever. We're just gonna roll with it. Yeah, I don't get the hate for Return of the Jedi. Well, I do. I understand what's wrong with it, and I still love it. I did have issues with it, even as a kid. I'm still not the biggest fan of the Ewoks. I feel it cuts the pacing really dead in that movie. But I still love it. Ultimately, it's about ideas and vision and style, and it was such a satisfying conclusion to a trilogy. So yeah, I love Return of the Jedi a lot. There are no Star Wars prequel or sequel movies on this list. The closest that would have been here would have been Last Jedi or Rogue One. But those did not make the cut. Sorry. But yeah, basically, I love all three of the original Star Wars trilogy. Really spicy, I know. And they're all in my top 40, so yeah. Number 37, Requiem for a Dream. Darren Aronofsky, we got a movie from him on the list. Probably my second favorite director. His style is not for everyone, I know, but for me it is. And it's a great movie. It's a movie that makes me never want to do cocaine or heroin, so that's important. Just unflinchingly brutal, definitely not for everybody, but just another one. It's kind of one of those ones where it's like I watched it so much I don't really ever need to watch it again, but I've got to acknowledge that it is one of my favorites in that regard. So yeah, great movie indeed. Number 36, Alien 3 Assembly Cut. Alright, here we go. So 36, we've made it to the Alien franchise. And again, my hot take is that I love Alien 3. Not something everyone agrees with, I understand. Specifically the Assembly Cut, of course. Obviously, the extended version, the closest we could get to what David Fincher wanted. And I don't know, I think about this a lot. If this had come out today, would I be in the camp of people being pissed? Oh, they killed off Newt and Hicks. Is it because I'm removed from that period in time? It was just a thing I always knew. Like growing up, it was never a big twist for me. I just knew, oh, it's just Ripley in Alien 3. That's just how it is. So I just accepted that as like being part of the plot. Is that why I'm okay with it? Maybe I would be a different person if I had been back there in that time and I had been around to see the release and would have been annoyed. Maybe I would, but I'm not. I am a person who went in knowing that was a thing, and so it didn't bother me. And I love the style. I love the world. Fury 161 is such a cool planet. It's just a style. I don't know. I struggle to think of another sci-fi movie I've seen that has that look to it, Obviously, I get why David Fincher disowned it and why he doesn't want to talk about it. I wouldn't try to convince him otherwise. Yeah, I don't know. What can I say? I've talked about this a lot, really. It's probably my number one hot take for a movie I love that everyone hates, and so I hold that as my badge of honor, right? But again, I get it. I'm not going to try to say you're wrong for it, but I do feel that there's a lot more to this film that deserves credit for. So Alien 3 is 36 on my list. Number 35, Cloud Atlas. Man, what a great movie, This was a movie that just, again, I say this a lot, this movie blew me away. But it really did, I was so hyped for this movie, and it didn't disappoint. It was a collaboration between the Wachowskis and, what's his name, the guy who did Run Lola Run? Tyler something. Maybe. I'm sorry. It's not a name as recognizable as the Wachowskis. But I just love this story that they did, these different time periods, and this concept of may or may not be reincarnation, and the similar actors throughout. I just thought it was such a crazy concept. I'm so sad this movie got totally overlooked and totally snubbed, much like the actual Cloud Atlas sextet in the movie. It was apparently, not really mass produced for people to listen to. But yeah, it's such a visionary movie. I love its style, how much it genre hops. Yeah, I haven't watched it in a very long time, so I would like to go back to it, but it was originally higher up on the list, and I brought it down a bit because it doesn't hold as much weight as some of the other movies, but yeah, it's a really, really wonderful one for me. So, yeah, Cloud Atlas. Oh. Number 34, The Lighthouse. Told you we'd be seeing another Robert Eggers movie up in here, and it is really a good one, Just a movie that hit all the right notes for me. Just sometimes there's those ones where they just hit at the right time in the right place, and that was this movie, all right. So yeah, what can I say more? It's so good. It's like it was made for me. I mean, I loved it so much. I did a whole parody of the lighthouse scene, but involving Demon Souls back when everybody wanted me to make a Demon Souls video. You know, wow. Seems like a lifetime ago, huh? Yeah, so that's a good one, man. Can't wait for Nosferatu. Number 33, Across the Universe. Another one I think that is kind of a controversial pick, shall we say. Which I don't really get. You know, I remember this movie came out and I saw the trailer. I didn't really know what it was. Because I didn't really listen to the Beatles much, and I kind of got into the Beatles sort of like sort of my mid-high school years, 2010 or so. And they really hit me, and I was like, wow, these guys actually are like one of the greatest bands of all time, and not overrated whatsoever. And so then I got into this movie as a result of my Beatles obsession, and it just again hit all the right notes. Does the plot make sense? Absolutely not. Okay, but that's not what it is, alright? It's a big, giant musical video tribute to the Beatles, okay? And there's a bunch of fun covers. Most of them land pretty well, not all of them. That's okay, and it's just a moving picture, it's just a visual masterpiece. It's just a collage of sight and sound. There's so many great visuals to it, and I just love it so much. Okay, so this is a very important movie for me, and I'm into it. And I didn't know it was like hated on or people didn't dig it. Yeah. I don't know what else to say there, man. It's a really important one for me, and I never get tired of it. Number 32, Blade Runner 2049. I finally came around to it, guys. Don't worry. I still am embarrassed on my initial review of this movie, but it was because I was viewing the movie for what I wanted it to be, not what it was. And what it is they were just like, it's a chill, slow burn sci-fi visual masterpiece that just deepens the world of Blade Runner. So spoiler alert, the original Blade Runner is higher on my list, but it's not like it's that much higher, it's 32 versus whatever I've got OG Blade Runner at. They're both great in their own way. It's just a matter of whatever I feel, such a cool world, such a great style, a lot of hot people in this movie too, so again, eye candy never hurts. Was glad I went out of my way to see it in IMAX when it was there. Yeah, just great. I never get tired of it. Again, it's another one I can just throw on like it's nothing. So, yeah. Oh yeah. Number 31, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So, it's hard to rank which movie I quote the most in life, but this one's definitely up there, man. This one, happened, and I was like, I'm gonna make this my entire persona, which I know if the actual Hunter S. Thompson had met me, he would probably hit me with a chair, because he liked Johnny Depp's version, but he wouldn't want anyone else doing it, so I do apologize for that. But just, oh man, what a quotable movie. So many fun bits to it, so many fun lines, just a fun thrill ride, again, it's another one I can watch like it's nothing. In fact, there were some times where I probably just watched the first 20 minutes multiple times because I just loved them so much. It's visually great, it's insane. I really do need to check out more Terry Gilliam movies because there's another one of his that's quite higher up. And we already had Monty Python, and I thought Zero Theorem was good, but I know he's got a couple others that I haven't seen, like Time Bandits and Adventures of Baron Munchausen, is it? And I need to give 12 Monkeys a rewatch. That seemed like it was a good one, But yeah, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, very great movie. The only it is at 31 and not any higher is because the other movies exist. If some of these I hadn't seen, this movie would be higher. So yeah. Top 30, Treasure Planet. My favorite Disney movie. Oh, damn, what a good movie, man. Very sad that this was a movie that was ignored and buried and forgotten for such a long time. I know it has its audience, and it is definitely a cult classic, and if that's true, then I'm a member of the cult. Absolutely. It's so fun, imaginative, great story, visuals. Main guy's an angsty boy with daddy issues, so of course I'll relate to that. It's got that awesome song by John Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls. The animation's insane, the score is so good. It's just such a fun, thrilling ride. Yeah, I can never get enough of this movie. I remember I was super hyped for it when it came out, and it did not disappoint. And it still doesn't. No, absolutely not. So, yeah, Treasure Planet. Number 29, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, specifically the director's cut, because that is the one that I grew up watching. Because on the DVD there was 2 versions, and I thought, well, let's watch the longer version. And that's just what I'm used to, and it does have a lot of crucial scenes. There's a lot of times I come on to talking about director's cuts, and some people talk about like how, oh, this movie's got more scenes and it ruins the pacing, but I don't know. For me, it's just like, it's the one that I grew up with, you know, and it's the one I'm used to, so to watch anything else feels wrong or different. And Terminator 2 is great. It's an awesomely badass action movie. And yeah, you don't need me to tell you how great this movie is. You all know it. Number 28, Interstellar. TARS is my name, and why did I name myself that? Because the robot from Interstellar. Why? Because I was trying to come up with a clever acronym, and I realized the ASMR review show could abbreviate to TARS, and I had just seen Interstellar. So here we are, 10 years later after it, and yeah, I still love this movie so much. It's a remake, essentially, of one of my favorite movies. You know, so of course I'm gonna love it, right? So visually insane, so investing. It's just, again, it was a 2014 movie, but it had all of the style and feels of those big epic 90s movies. And I really need to watch The Right Stuff, because I haven't seen it yet, but apparently Christopher Nolan screened it for the cast before they watched it, much the same way they screened Heat before watching Dark Knight. And yeah, I love it so much. I understand why there's some things that don't work for certain people, but to me, no, I love every minute of it. Never get bored of all 3 hours of it. I had wanted Christopher Nolan to do a full-on science fiction film, and this is exactly the movie I was hoping for. And yeah, I decided that I am now TARS. That's my persona. What is my humor setting at? I think we need to dial it down to about 65%, because it's normally around 80. You can use it to find your way back in the spaceship, you know, when I blow you out the airlock. This one's for you, Javik. Why is Interstellar not higher? Because the other movies exist. And again, don't get too technical with the rating, okay? They're all great. Speaking of Heat, 27 is Heat. Again, another movie that I just watched when I was younger. I saw my parents had the VHS, and I thought this looked like a weird movie. What is this movie? And I was just so invested in it. Again, this is my favorite movies are ones where it doesn't take effort to watch them. They just simply are. And that's what Heat is for me. I can just watch this movie like it's nothing, and be into this 3-hour movie. And you know, everyone's talked about how great the bank scenes are, the heists and the hostage situations, and the all the credits from GTA that are in it. We all know that, and yeah, they're all great. Everyone's just so good in this movie. The other movie that didn't make the cut is Public Enemies, but I think that one's underrated. Not a number one favorite of mine, but I do really love that one too. So yeah, and I need to watch, what is it, Thief. That's also Michael Mann. That was kind of like an earlier one of his, wasn't it? Yeah, I should check that out. Yeah, but Heat's really great. Of course, again, it's an obvious pick, I know, but it really is. Number 26, Star Wars. See, I think I screwed up. I don't know. We're just rolling with it now. When I made the list, I didn't think about this, where these were in relation to each other. Yeah, I usually say I like Return of the Jedi more. Yeah, whatever, we're rolling with it. All the Star Wars movies of the original trilogy are great, and A New Hope is great. You know, it's just a near perfect movie, except it isn't. There's a lot wrong with Star Wars, okay? I don't really like talking about Star Wars because I just get angry at people that will critique the newer movies for the same reasons that the old ones are wrong. But that's a whole other thing. Let's just agree that I love the OG trilogy a lot. And the Star Wars, A New Hope is great, too. Never get tired of watching it. Absolutely not. It's Star Wars. Like, what else do you say? Number 25, Clockwork Orange. Okay, again, Stanley Kubrick movie. Again, I love it. But again, why do I love this one? I mean, it's a dark, violent, messed up movie. I mean, it's kind of funny in some places, though, which is what's weird about it. I mean, you know I love it. I got a poster of it in the background of all my videos, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's just a really weird, interesting movie, Is it better to control a bad person through force, or is it better for a man to choose to be bad? It's a weird kind of dystopian science fiction universe. I just find it really investing and engaging. But I understand why some people would think if you love A Clockwork Orange, that's a red flag. Like, I get it, And some of the fan base is not cool, too. I mean, there's a reason they banned it in Britain for a long time. But, I don't know, this is the thing about favorite movies. You shouldn't have to think too hard about it. You should just know. And I just know whenever I would put lists together in the past that A Clockwork Orange was always one of the ones for consideration. Just something about it, I know it. I don't know. Number 24, Pi. Again, another very formative years movie for me. This is about looking for a pattern in the stock market, right? And Darren Aronofsky's debut movie also launched the scoring career of Clint Mansell. Great composer, one of my favorites. And again, it's just a very weird, strange thriller, but it involves math, and it's very nerdy and technical, so I like those things a lot. And I love Darren Aronofsky's style, so of course I'm gonna like this one. I think I went back and forth for a while whether I preferred Pi or Requiem for a Dream, and it's just Pi is a little more fun for me with the style and the soundtrack, that very grainy black and white filter. But yeah, so again, it's another fun one. I grew up watching this. I was so fascinated and trying to figure out, what does this movie mean? Maybe it's just randomness. I don't know, but I like it. Number 23, Akira. Oh, such a great anime movie. I mean, yeah, again, it's probably a generic answer, but like, you know me, I like my cyberpunk stuff, I like sci-fi, I like animated stuff, and here's a very crazy, insane, over-the-top, violent anime that just has such a crazy, insane world to it. I love this movie a lot. The ending really grossed me out to the point where I kind of had this thing where I was like, it was the same feeling I felt while watching a certain other favorite movie of mine, which is a spoiler if I say it, but it was like, I was scared by it, but I wanted more. I was fascinated on it, like I wanted to conquer my fear. I didn't want to run away from it, and I have with Akira now, you know, and yeah, what a insane movie, indeed. Truly deserves to be considered a classic in all of the ways. Number 22, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. That's right, the lowest rated Lord of the Rings movie is only number 22 on my list, so spoiler alert for the other two. Now I put extended edition here, of course, because, you know, more scenes, more movie. But I do recognize that, like, the theatrical versions are the preferred version in terms of what the filmmakers wanted. And I am of the opinion that if you're a new Lord of the Rings watcher, perhaps if you're not super into the concept of the movies, you should start with the theatrical editions, because those were the ones we all saw first when those movies came out, and we saw them, and I saw this movie in theaters in 2001, and I loved it. I was blown away by it. It's not like it's a case of a Kingdom of Heaven where the movie was bad and it was butchered and then we got the real version, right? It was just, this was what they wanted to make. So I stand by that, and especially with Fellowship, I stand by the fact that extended scenes ruin some of the suspense and the twists later in the movie. But that's a conversation for another time. I like both versions of the movie, you know. Yeah, so Fellowship is like my least favorite of the three, and it's only my 22nd favorite movie of all time. That should tell you how much I enjoy these films, right? I mean, it's Lord of the Rings, you know. Right. Number 21, Fight Club. Yep, I love Fight Club. Indeed. I am indeed one of those guys. Again, it's probably my biggest movie where I love it, but I hate the typical audience that it has. But, like, you know, this is how it is, right? It's a fun, strange, out there movie. I realize I have ranked it higher than Alien 3, so I guess it's my favorite David Fincher movie. But I still love Alien 3, so, but that doesn't really count. Oh well. Yeah, this movie's great. It's a lot of fun. It's strange. Goes so off the rails. It's got one of my favorite twists in a film. Just, I love everything about it. I never get tired of it. So yeah. Alright, top 20. What do we got? Number 20, Black Swan. Darren Aronofsky, my man. Yeah. So, the obvious joke, of course, is you get to see Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis make out, right? Har, 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 such a guy. I know, right? But besides that, it is a crazy, insane, paranoid thriller that is violent. It makes you guess. I was literally floored by the ending of the movie. To the point where a guy was walking away and looked at me and was like, that was a lot for you, wasn't it? Yeah. So, it's another one I never get sick of. I feel I haven't watched this one in a while. Yeah, I should probably watch this one again, you know? So, yeah. Not much else to say other than it's just an insanely well-made, intense thriller. Just always has me on the edge of my seat. It was exactly the movie I was hoping it was. And, yeah. I'd like to see Darren Aronofsky doing that again, though. Like, it's kind of been a little slow. We had Noah, Mother, and The Whale, right? I wonder what he's gonna do next. I'm on board for it though. Number 19, Blade Runner. So yeah, it's ranked higher than Blade Runner 2049, but they're both good in their own way. This one is just the first one, so I guess it gets more credit. And again, it's another one. I don't really know why I love it. It's sci-fi, it's slow, it's inventive, it's got great production design, it's philosophical, it has a couple bits that haven't aged super well. That's not how consent works. But yeah, ultimately it's just another one of them movies I can just throw on and watch like it's nothing. Even when I wasn't super into it, I knew there was something about it that I liked. Because I remember the first time I watched it, I thought it was like, as a kid, I thought it was an action movie. Oh, he's a guy that like hunts down rogue robots. I didn't know nothing about cyberpunk or film noir or, private detective type movies, right? But there was something about it. I was invested in it. And I never found it too slow or boring. I just accepted that this was the movie, right? So, yeah, it's another one of my favorites. Number 18, Neon Genesis Evangelion, the end of Evangelion. So, this is a movie, like, it's technically 2 episodes remade, but it's a movie, so it counts, so it's on my list here, right? Yeah. So, I love the anime Evangelion. And it wasn't one I grew up with, though. I probably didn't see it until I was like, early 20s, shall we say. I think around there, yeah. But I was interested in watching this movie because there was a list of like the 10 most confusing movies, and this was on there, and it was the only one I hadn't seen, and every other movie on the list I loved. So I went out of my way to watch the anime, get into this, and watch the movie, and yeah, it was quite an experience for me, indeed. And I love it so much, and I was really glad that with the rebuilds, at least to me, I felt they stuck the landing. 3.0 plus 1.0 was very great indeed. I guess a lot of fans didn't really dig it though, which kind of surprised me, but yeah, this one's good. It's just got an epic sense of scale to it, and yeah, what else can I say? This is such a great, insane movie. It's messed up, that's for sure, the hospital scene, but like, that's the point, they didn't hold back. So yeah. Number 17, Enter the Void. Yep, I'm one of them film nerds that loves Enter the Void, but I've actually not done DMT yet. Kind of want to try it though. Maybe. Yeah, another movie that just really hit at the perfect time. I actually watched it not super long after it came out as well. It's really been, put out there around on the internet now as being like a movie. It's very well known in that regard, but I just really love it. I mean, it's very similar to a certain other movie that I may or may not have hinted at a lot, that we may be seeing closer to the top of this list, shall we say. But yeah, I just love that. Again, we mentioned earlier when talking about some of the religious movies that I'm not Christian, but like, this is a very spiritual movie in some ways that really does make me think. Indeed, it does make me think. And for some people, it is perhaps a little too long in the last segment of it, and I guess I could agree with that. Sometimes I do find myself tuning out a little bit towards the later half. I think the momentum is mostly in that first half. Perhaps it could have been cut down a little bit. I know there's some edits where they literally just took out a whole reel of film. But I'm okay with it. And once you push past that bit, there's like a certain bit where it's like, okay, I know we're leading up to the Love Hotel scene, and then the momentum goes, and just, yeah, the ultimate trip, indeed. Number 16, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Yeah, so, now we've got another Lord of the Rings movie, and again, I love it. I guess you know which one's my favorite now, right? There are three kinds of people in the world. Those who prefer Fellowship, those who prefer Two Towers, and those who prefer whatever that last movie is called. I think you know which one I am. Yeah, I love all three of them, really. Generic answer, I know, but just, they are all really that great, and it's not like I can really point to it and just say, I feel like they got better with each one. Like, there's no Rohan in the first one, and there's no Gollum in the first one, right? So, Two Towers has those. It's got that scene where he fights the Balrog, Lord of Lightning, right? Yeah, it's really great indeed, Lord of the Rings, but you knew that already. All right, top 15, Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars again. It's kind of weird to put this movie that high, It's just one of those ones. It's just good. It's Star Wars. And I love Star Wars, right? It seems weird to put something as simple as a Star Wars movie above all of these crazy mind-bending movies, right? But that's just how it is. So I'm boring, and Empire is my favorite Star Wars movie. But yeah, it really is. I think maybe when I was younger it was Return of the Jedi, despite the Ewoks. But yeah. What else can I say? I know it's kind of boring. I realize I've done a lot of that this list, but most of these films are pretty obviously loved by a lot of people, so does it need defending? I don't think so. Here we go. Here's a film, though, I can defend. Number 14, The Fountain. Yeah, my favorite Darren Aronofsky movie is The Fountain, and it was something that took me quite a while to arrive at this conclusion, but I did. And so, yeah. I have always thought this film was really good, and it just gets better the more and more I think about it and watch it. The score is probably one of my all-time favorite original scores, maybe the number one favorite. I made a video about this a while ago, but I don't remember what I said. I might have put this one at number one, maybe. Maybe it's like a way to, show how much I love it. It's such a mind-bending movie with these three different narratives intersecting. Maybe they're real, maybe they're not. I don't know. Again, I like spiritual movies that are just sort of allowing me to think about what could or could be, not movies that tell me how to think, right? And it's got such a cool visual style to it, this weird kind of yellow color scheme. Yellow can be a bit of a sickly color, but here it's a very kind of calming and welcoming gold, and I love that so much. So, and this to me is Hugh Jackman's best acting performance. Okay, he's great as Wolverine, he's great in The Prestige, he's great as The Greatest Showman, right? But to me, this is the one where he made me cry over a tree, right? He had to be a guy upset over a tree, and that made me cry, okay? And that's why this is Hugh Jackman's best performance. And, yeah, so The Fountain, I don't know if it's really number 14, but it deserves to be high up on this list. Number 13, Lost in Translation. So, yeah, perhaps one that is slightly controversial depending on who you talk to, right? But this was a movie I watched at literally the perfect time in my life. I don't think I could have watched it at a better time, and it was a late night, and I just watched it, and I was super into it, and I was invested. And like, the weirdest thing is that at the time I was starting to really get into My Bloody Valentine, and sometimes, right, that was one of my favorite songs from that album. And I'm watching this movie thinking, this movie needs some My Bloody Valentine, and lo and behold, in the next scene, Sometimes by My Bloody Valentine plays. It's like it was meant to be. Like I willed it into existence somehow, right? But I didn't, because the movie was 9 years old at the time, so it was already in motion. It's like it was meant to be, you know. It's crazy. I love this movie. I love Bill Murray's very subtle acting in it, but he's kind of hilarious. I love Scarlett Johansson in this movie. I love the way it's shot. There is that talk of people complaining about it being like, I don't know if the word's Orientalism or just racist, but like, I don't know about that. The point is to show that these are two people outside of their comfort zone and not really properly understanding. And they're not necessarily meant to be good people. I mean, our main guy is Bill Murray, who's a guy who cheats on his wife with some random opera singer. And, you know, right, like, is he meant to be a good guy, per se? Like, you could literally take this story and do it with any group of people in any situation, right? You could take two people who aren't American and set it in America. You could take two people who aren't Canadian and set it in Canada, or Sri Lanka, Ghana, like, literally any country you could. That's the point of this movie. It's about two strangers feeling lost and isolated in a world where they don't feel welcome or understanding, and sort of bonding with each other. And maybe that wasn't the intention, you know. I don't know. That's what I got out of it. So this is a very important movie for me, and I really love it a lot. Yeah, it's a good one. Number 12, There Will Be Blood. Another very important movie for me. These are what make these ones the top ones above everything else, is the importance to them, the significance in life events, right? So we already established I'm a Stanley Kubrick fanboy, and There Will Be Blood was like the most, at the time, the most Kubrick, non-Stanley Kubrick movie I had seen at that point. And I was just blown away by it. Again, it's another movie I can just watch like it's nothing. I can just throw it on and be invested in it. Everyone's talked about Daniel Day-Lewis in this movie. He really is so amazing. Love his voice so much. And as like an angsty teenager watching this slightly anti-religious movie, that was also pretty good too. Really loved that, you know. He's a false prophet, goddess of superstition, even though those errors have already been drilled. Yeah, so it just hit really hard in all the right ways, and I was like super impressed by it. Out of the big 2007 movies, we also had No Country for Old Men and Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, and those are also both equally great movies. They did not make the cut, but I do also love them a lot. And number 11, the last one before the top 10, is Return of the King, Lord of the Rings. Told you they'd all be in the top bit. Return of the King's my favorite just because it's the big, awesome, epic conclusion to everything, and it's got 40 minutes of just people charging against other armies in battle. I don't know. It's just, I've always known it was my favorite of the three. For some people, they like the simplicity of Fellowship. They like the world building of Two Towers. I just like Return of the King the most. But really, they're all one big movie, but not. I don't count Lord of the Rings as one movie because each movie is meant to be like an adaptation of one book, whereas in Dune's case, when we get back to it, Dune is meant to be two movies that are each one half of an adaptation of one book, so that feels different to me, you know? Yeah. So yeah, Return of the King is number 11, because I love it so much. I cry every time. Many times. Multiple times. Alright, deep breath. Are we ready for the top 10? Let's begin. Number 10 is Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. This is like the funniest movie I've ever watched, and I love it, and I quote it all the time, and I never get tired of it at all. And I have a lot of fun with it, you know. I just talking about this movie, thinking about it, makes me laugh, which is funny because it's a 60-year-old comedy about nuclear annihilation, but hey, here we are now, and not much has changed, you know. Didn't realize that some people thought this was a documentary or a guidebook. Yeah. I've always loved this movie. I don't even remember watching it for the first time. I've just always known it, you know. That was me, how I was. Because it had planes in it, B-52s, man. They're so beautiful. Big plane, you know, big plane. Frying chickens in the barnyard. Right? Number 9 is The Thin Red Line. So, we talked about Saving Private Ryan earlier, but when we get down to it, the World War II movies that came out in 1998, I am a Thin Red Line person. Again, it's just a very surreal movie, shall we say. It's just kind of trippy. There's all this narration going on, right? The Terrence Malick wandering camera. His style of filmmaking, you know. I'm really into it, you know, and something about this one just hits really hard. And it's just one of those ones where I've always known it's one of my favorites. And I never really know when that happened. I just always knew, oh yeah, Thin Red Line, I love it, you know. I don't know. How do you say it? We've done this whole video. But I just knew that this one had to be up near the top, or I would feel wrong. Number 8, Children of Men. Another movie that when I watched it when it came out just sort of like devastated me and blew me away by the filmmaking. This is kind of one of those ones that really like got me into like looking at how films are made. And it's such a good movie. I really can't believe it how well done this one is. You know, it's very simple and straightforward, and yet it's like one of the insane, most realistic depictions of a sci-fi future dystopia I've ever seen. I love this world so much that I hate it, but I love it. It's also kind of become a template for a lot of video games, I find, right? Because, you know, this was the dad simulator movie, right? We have so many video games now where it's, you know, estranged father with some kind of daughter figure of sorts, or son figure, that he has to escort across a barren wasteland because the kid is like a special person, right? And, you know, really, really impressed by how much Last of Us managed to riff off of this movie, which you think I would have loved Last of Us because of that. I thought Last of Us was good. I mean, I kind of liked the gameplay of Last of Us Part 2 better, though, because it had a dodge button. But we're getting distracted. Children of Men's a great movie. Insanely well made. Always cry during the big final take. During the ending. Yeah. Love this movie so much. Number 7 is Brazil. Brazil was a movie I heard about, was interested in, and it was just like every shot was so cool. I'd movie and you're like not even halfway through and you're like, this is gonna be one of my favorite movies of all time, unless it really, really screws up. I don't get that often, but Brazil did that and it did not screw up. It just got better and better. Obviously, I was already, at the time, I was reading 1984, and this is kind of a dark comedy parody of that. It's 1984 and a half was the working title. Just, so much great set design and world design. We talked about how I had a Terry Gilliam movie higher up. This is the one, the man against the system, right? And he's off to find the girl of his dreams, literally. And it's a Christmas movie too. That's also good. Yeah, so it's another one. I don't have to think about it. I know it's one of my favorites. Such a great movie. Sci-fi dystopia. Are you sensing a pattern here? And now here we get to it. So the top 5 has always been set. And again, if you watched my video on my top 5, you knew it already. So number 6 is like the last one, what's the honorable mention for the top 5? Number 6, I always knew what it was, and that is another Terrence Malick movie, The Tree of Life. What do you know? Again, this is another movie that kind of hit at the perfect time. I've talked about some spiritual movies before, some religious movies, and again, I love this one too, because I never felt this movie was telling me the right way to think. It was presenting me information and allowing me to form my own conclusions based off of that. And I love it for that. And it's just such a simple explanation, the way of nature and the way of grace. And while not a Christian myself, I like to think that I've tried to follow the way of grace. It's something I've tried to do in life, and I hope I've done that well. And I don't know what that's going to accomplish in life, but the fact that this is a movie that had that much of an impact on me, I feel like it deserves to be quite high up. So yeah, that's where it is. Tree of Life, insanely great movie. I regret missing a chance to see this in a theater. I was with a couple of friends at a theater, and they had oversold tickets to whatever movie we were gonna see. I think it was something dumb like Horrible Bosses or whatever. So we were wandering around the other theaters thinking like, oh, what else should we watch? And there was these 2 old women coming out of this movie, Tree of Life. And I'd heard, oh, this is a movie with Brad Pitt, apparently it's good. And these 2 women were like, oh, this is a horrible movie, it's got like dinosaurs in it, I don't know what's going on. And the rest of my friends were like, oh, let's not bother with this. I was like, oh, it could be good, guys, this could be good. I said, no, let's just get a refund, let's go somewhere else. Yeah, I missed out on seeing it in theaters. Damn it. Oh well, I will honor its memory by giving it a honorable mention on my top 5. Tree of Life. Okay, top 5, you ready? Well, if you've been following my channel, you should know what it is. Number 5, here it is. Alien. There it is, man. Yeah. So, you know me. I'm the guy that talks about Alien in basically every video in some shape or form. And I'm a certified Alien fanboy. And I love this movie. You notice that in some of these films I've been designating which version of the film we're talking about, but I did not for Alien, because Alien is a weird one. I don't think I really have a preference which version. I know the theatrical cut is the preferred version by Ridley Scott, and that the director's cut is not really a director's cut. It is just an alternate version for the fans to include some deleted scenes from a marketing perspective. I like both. They're both good in their own way. I don't really care. I think I've been watching the theatrical cut lately, but that's because I've just watched what is on Disney Plus. So, yeah. Or like when I saw it in theaters, that's the Alien. Always have. It's funny because actually I guess when I was like really young, my dad would like stay up late until I fell asleep and he would watch Alien. So like I was actually watching it but not knowing what was going on. And then the first time I watched it I was 7 and I was like both traumatized by the movie and invested in it and like I wanted more. So yeah, this yeah, it's Alien, you know me. Alright, number 4 is Mulholland Drive. We already had some David Lynch on here earlier with like Blue Velvet. The other film of his, Inland Empire, I give it 5 stars, but I need to rewatch it before I figure out its place if it makes the list. So for the meantime, we have Mulholland Drive. Again, another movie I was just so enamored with when I got into it, right, in a very good era. A trippy, surreal movie. You know, what is reality, what is dreams? Not a horror movie, but has some really horrific elements to it. Yeah, I love this one so much. And again, it's like I've never had to think about my top 5. It was just automatic. Oh yeah, number 5 is Alien, number 4 is Mulholland Drive, and that's the rest. So yeah, that's how I view it, you know. You shouldn't have to do too many mathematical computations to know that this movie is really great. And, well, we had number 5 is Alien. Well, what does that leave? Well, number 3 is Aliens, right? Yeah, so there are 2 kinds of people in the world. Those who prefer Alien, those who prefer Aliens. I prefer Aliens because, you know, power loader, right? And Queen Alien. But, like, I get it. If you like Alien more, there's literally only one movie in between them, so they're basically equal to show how much I like these movies. And yeah, it was like, kind of symbolic in a way, because I watched Alien, and then I did not watch it for years, and then I came back and I started watching Aliens, and much in the way that Ripley conquers her fear of the alien, that helped me conquer my fears. Then I went back and watched Alien after having seen Aliens and loved it. It's just one I've always known, I've loved, you know, I've always been into it, everything about it, the world, just the set design, the little minutiae of details. It's a pretty good movie. Yeah, so Aliens is number 3. Now number 2 is a weird one for me, okay? Because I don't know why it's number 2. But if I didn't put this movie at number 2, it would feel wrong. And I don't really know why. But number 2 is Apocalypse Now. So I'm pretty sure the first time I watched Apocalypse Now, well, let's see, it was on DVD. It was when they came out with the Redux version on DVD. Now, that was in 2001 when the Redux cut came out, but when the actual DVD was released, I'm not sure. But it would have been somewhere in that era, so I could have been, you know, in my teenage years, perhaps, somewhere in that range, maybe. And I don't know why, I like watched it, and I watched the Redux cut, okay? There's some people that hate that version, but that's just the one I'm used to watching, and I don't mind it. Again, this is another one I can just watch like it's nothing. It's effortless for me to watch. I've done that randomly in the middle of the night. I've started a 3.5-hour movie and watched it from beginning to end without hesitation. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I cannot point to a single factor as to why this movie is ranked above every other movie I've seen except for one. It feels right. I just think there was like there was a time where my number one, I started proclaiming it as my number one, and then I started proclaiming this one as number two, and I've just like repeated that, and it's just become common knowledge, you know. Maybe it's some kind of flow of information, 1984 style thing, you know. You say a lie enough, it becomes the truth. But it just feels right. I mean, it's a giant 3-hour epic Vietnam War movie, some of the best looking cinematography and effects I've ever seen. It's also like a descent into hell, right? Like there's the bit where they get to like the bridge between worlds, and there's the weird creepy carousel of doom, and it's like we're going back in time, you know, to prehistoric times. And it's a trippy movie, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. You're probably wanting some big dissertation on why I picked this number two, but it just is, and it really is something, you know. Now, I ask you, have you figured out what my number one movie is? Not the people that saw the previous top 5 videos version, but have you been paying attention to all of my other picks and all of my references and acknowledgments? Well, if you did, you would know that I am a very boring person. I don't really have that many controversial takes. I don't have hot takes at all. There's no spice to be had here. And you would know that, well, what is my favorite genre? It's clearly science fiction. So, if I was going to pick the most obvious science fiction movie of all time to be my favorite movie, then of course it would be none other than, drumroll please, dun, 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 dun. Yep, my favorite movie is 2001: A Space Odyssey, the most boringest, least interesting science fiction movie of all time, and I loved every single minute of it. But again, this is like, I don't remember watching this movie for the first time. It is just one I had always been watching, you know, because my parents let me watch it because it was science fiction and outer space, and I loved all that stuff, right? And I didn't care how boring it was, I just thought it was fascinating. And I didn't understand it, but I found it intriguing. And then I think one day I was just asked, what's your favorite movie? I just sort of automatically said, 2001: Space Odyssey. And then I just kept saying it. And then it stuck. I guess it is my favorite movie, right? And I reference it all the time. And, like, it's such a good movie. And it's so influential. But, like, I also get it. Like, I'm not blind. There are some people who legit hate this movie, and they find it boring and, you know, obtuse and uninteresting, right? And I get it. Like, just because it's my favorite doesn't mean it's somebody else's favorite. I understand. So, like, you know, if you tell me you hated this movie, don't worry, I get it. And I'm not gonna try to convince you to love it. There's some movies on my list where I'm like, what do you mean you hated that? But, like, this one, it makes sense. It's not for everybody, right? But for me, I love this movie. It could have been longer if they wanted it to. It's outer space. It's inventive. Makes you think. Again, we've talked about some more overt religious movies on this list, but, like, I feel that is a part of an element to this one at the end. You know, does Dave Bowman ascend to some higher plane of existence? What does it mean, you know? Why didn't they show the aliens at the end? Because you don't show God, right? Yeah, I just find it so fascinating, and the score, the soundtrack, that is great. Everything about it is just so literally might have changed between me filming and editing this video, right? However long that takes. But, yeah, I've been trying to make this one for a while, but I just knew it would be like a really big, long video. Like, what are we at? Like, getting close to over nearly 2.5 hours on this one. Yeah, so hope you enjoyed that. Again, it will change over time because there are a lot of movies I watched this year that are 5-star movies for me, but it just felt wrong to include them. You know, I needed to space it out a little, and I didn't want to make things too difficult. So, yeah. And again, my top 5 is still the same as it was as the last time I made a video on this. So maybe it will do like a yearly update to it. We shall see. Again, you can let me know what you think. But again, most of these I'm sure are quite obvious choices, not super spicy of takes. If you're wondering, you know, have I seen such and such film? Well, you know, if you're looking at this list on Letterboxd, you can go look and you can see what I've watched. So if there isn't a movie on this list, you can see if I've seen it, and if I haven't seen it, then I haven't seen it, and if I have, perhaps I ranked it a little lower. But again, don't get too hung up on the stars and the ratings and the numbers. Again, you know, right? It's just how it is, right? I thought it would be a fun project to finally have this solidified in internet history, and thus it is. So, yeah. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed that. Thank you very much for coming with me on this journey through my top 100. Hope it was slightly entertaining, and you know, share with me your top favorite movies. Yeah, that would be fun. But again, I'm always changing my mind on stuff. We'll see. And I know there were some movies that missed out, like Into the Spider-Verse and Poor Things and Lawrence of Arabia and Midsummer and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. You know, but I just went with it, and that's how it is. So you can let me know all of that, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Thank you. You're awesome. Yeah. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed that. I'll catch you next time. Have a good night.